Welcome to MVP Sports, everyone. My name is Soapy Muffins. I don't know why I do that every time, but we're going to just roll with it because you know what? It's big brain time. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Dave Oster.
Am I the big brain?
I can be the smooth to the wrinkle, so...
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. How you doing, Dave? Good Lord, my English just fell off the planet in between.
Have you spoken? No, I'm doing great. It's like 85 out. It's fucking gorgeous in Chicago. I love it. This is what I've been waiting for a while.
I mean, it's always nice whenever good weather comes around. I think it's like 76 here.
Can't go wrong.
Oh yeah, as long as it's not like scorching hot, I'm a-okay with it.
And I don't do manual labor outside unless I have to, so like that's always a bonus. Going outside's a treat, you know.
Yeah, true. We got a wonderful show for you guys today, but first we're going to get through some housekeeping. You want to join one of the best communities on the internet? Well, you can do that by going to Twitch chat, typing !Discord, or checking the description on the YouTube video for the link. There you can talk about all sorts of things: sports, movies, TV shows, gaming. It covers a wide array of things, and there's some good conversations to go on in there. Also a good amount of trolling, but same time,
a little bit of Russell Westbrook Chicago Bulls talk happened today. A little bit terrified of that. Don't know who's trying to start.
Honestly, I don't even remember who posted that, so who knows? Yeah. Want to support us at that monetary value? You're able to do that by going to patreon.com/MVPvids. There you can support us in multiple tiers, bronze all the way up to platinum, each one having their own benefit. For instance, if you become a platinum supporter, you get to be a sponsor, so you get your video name shouted out in the video. Good God, my English. Like our wonderful sponsor, Pat Hill. Love you, Pat. You can sub to us on Twitch. There you get the same benefits as a bronze supporter. Look at that. I actually remembered to mention Twitch sub for once in my life, so who knows?
Not so good after all.
I know. Dude, one of these days, a housekeeping will go by without me screwing up. But you want to watch us live, twitch.tv/MVPvids. We're live here right now is the time of the recording. But if you missed the show and you want to catch up on former content, or you want to see who we think the dampest of dudes are, you can check us out at youtube.com/MVPsports. Now, today we're talking about the Kings, the Sacramento Kings, the team that, and they got the number one pick. We can just go over that for a second. It's Gabe.
Hey, you slap your wall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, at first, I was going to be like, could this be the team to throw it out a loop? Could they take a Jalen Green? Since they already have 2 point guards. But at the same time, I'm like, I think Cade's the guy to just go with, no matter who's here.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. So, moving into 2 through 4. Now, this is where I think the Kings, obviously, this would be the luxury spot for them. Obviously, they already have really good talent on this roster.
Do they?
Mostly. I mean, hey.
No, I'm asking the question because this is a team that just sucks sometimes.
I mean,
that's one thing.
Yeah.
The coach is awful.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, they got some decent talent here. They got, Buddy Buckets. They got Rashawn Holmes, De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton. They got some pieces.
I love Fox. I love Halliburton. Love me some Harrison Barnes. Love Rashawn Holmes. The problem is their coach is challenged when it comes to coaching. So no matter what they put on the floor, not really going to matter. It seems. I think Buddy Hield. No, don't care. I think we're on very opposite ends of his value. Is he worth $24 million? No, he's not. The nice thing about his contract, though, it scales down 24, 22, 20, 18. So it's kind of a cool incentive if they were to move him in the future. Spoilers.
I mean, yeah, true. There is a chance they do that. But let's say, Dave, they luck out, they get the luck of the draw and they get the number 2 pick. Is it fair to say they take Jalen Green here? Just by far and away, not even really a secondary thought?
No. As much as I personally want to say they should take Jalen Green because I believe Jalen Green potentially is the best player in this class, I think that the move for this Kings team is likely to go with Mobley here. Rashawn Holmes isn't expiring this year. He's outplayed the hell out of his contract. He was only making $5 million a year. This year, he has been doing everything. It is embarrassingly bad how much they depend on him, because Hassan Whiteside was their backup center, obviously not even existent. Like, they tried playing Bagley when he was healthy and available. It's just been a shit show. So I think that they have to go and attack that big position with Mobley. I think he'd be an excellent fit here. I think he gives them, obviously the defense, the rim protection, and the upside for that offensive game, because he can face up, bounce the ball a couple times, maybe take a shot from mid range. Like, he has incredible upside. Obviously, you want him to be, defensively gifted, but also Chris Bosh on the upside for his offensive game. And I think that would fit really well with players like De'Aaron Fox, who are so head down towards the basket. The way Fox can drive and kick and create by having a spacing big, I think that's the ideal situation for this Sacramento Kings team, assuming they have a coach who doesn't have the head so firmly planted up his ass.
Yeah, and I do agree with you here. I do think, though, that I think they're going to re-sign Rashawn Holmes. I think he kind of earned himself that contract, and I think the Kings would be willing to do that, unless they just want to keep being not the best organization.
Well, Holmes is going to be an unrestricted free agent, so he will have other suitors out there. I don't know if the Kings will be the highest bidder. I think there are some teams who are desperate for center help. I look at a team like Toronto, who could be in a position to throw out a big deal to someone. They do have Kem Birch. I know how much you love Kem Birch, and he is playing well. You hear Kyle Lowry talk about, I'm in here to get this guy paid. They've got great chemistry already, but let's be honest, if Rashawn Holmes were on the market, would they give up $15 to $20 million for him? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And I really do think a lot of this does depend on if Rashawn Holmes stays. I know, like, some people who may not pay too close of attention to Rashawn Holmes may kind of look at that as like really?
It sounds
like
crazy to say, yeah.
Yeah, but like, it's once you realize Rashawn Holmes literally does what every team needs their center to do. All right, like, is he in like the elite class of like Embiid, Jokic? No. But like, he fits that role of like he's good enough. He holds the fort down.
He's above average. He's a great energy guy. He rebounds well. He's working on his passing out of the post, which I think is an improving part of his game. I think I've seen a big stride there I don't know if it's just Sacramento's system that's kind of helping him out or forcing him to do that because of their shit passing lanes, but he looks to be really well, like picking up really well. So I think that, he does have that ability to be kind of like a multi-tool player at the center position, which honestly, outside of missing a 3-point shot that's consistent, like, he does everything else you want him to do. You're right. He is the modern center. And I think he is slightly above average. I would expect probably a 15 to 20 mil contract. I think he will be wanted by multiple teams out there during free agency. So, but the catch here is, Soapy, you don't know until you know. The draft happens before free agency. That puts them in an awkward position. Do you think that they're confident in bringing Rashawn Holmes back enough to pass up on someone like Mobley, who has the it factor?
See, that's where the trouble comes in, and it's mostly because, I mean, a lot of times they kind of do talk to the players beforehand, try to get the ball rolling on the contract.
Yeah.
So like, if they're feeling confident, like we see, someone like a Green taken, which, by the way, just gotta quickly take it aside. You know how much fucking fun that lineup's gonna be when they roll out the 3-guard lineup of Fox, Halliburton, and Green?
It would be fantastic. Honestly, like, that would be so much fun. And again, I'm a big proponent of Green. I will continue to speak well of him. My assumption here is the direction the Kings will take. This is not my big board talk. This is what the Kings are going to do for their own, situation. Because if I were the Kings, I would trade Buddy in a heartbeat. I would move on from him because honestly, he doesn't bring anything but a headache to that lineup. You see what Bogey is doing. I mean, Bogdanovich, the guy they should have kept instead, is killing it down there in Atlanta. And clearly, Buddy Hield, great shooter, just doesn't fit this team anymore. So I think that they need to move on from him. And I love the idea of adding Green to that rotation and being that 3-guard lineup would be dynamic because Halliburton can guard up and down 1 through 3. And obviously, De'Aaron Fox is known for his defensive prowess as well. So Green, you can kind of hide him until he learns the game. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just I don't think he's there physically. And he doesn't know the game well enough, perhaps, to be that like high IQ, like Pat Bev wannabe defender, where De'Aaron Fox is already there. Like, De'Aaron Fox knows his shit already. So you are pretty much set for coverage as far as like that is an ideal pairing of incredible offense and you have coverage on both sides of him for guys who can play up or down, like slide up or down defensively to make sure that no matter what situation is, you're not going to take an L on the defensive end.
Yeah, and as well, I think if he got drafted to this Kings team, I think it really does kind of, obviously in the G League season, he still is a very young person, so you kind of got to take the G League stats a little bit with a grain of salt.
I think you got to give him a fucking gold star for that. He's going up against grown-ass men. Jared goddamn Jack out there on his own team trying to get a contract. Didn't happen yet, but
the main reason I was bringing it up was because of like kind of his assist to turnover ratio was not the best.
He's not a point guard. Obviously, not a point guard. Should not ask him.
And that was going to be. And that's kind of where I think if he got drafted by the Kings, he literally is in a perfect situation of like, hell, you have Halliburton, really good playmaker.
Yeah.
Fox, really good playmaker. Like, essentially, at any lineup he's playing, and if either one of those two is in, it's like, okay, cool. You don't have to worry about Green helping his teammates score. It's literally just, hey, Green, you want to score the basket. Exactly. Halliburton or Fox will get you into that position. You just make some magic happen.
Yeah. No, I think you can run a lot of play sets for him. You can work him on the wing at ISO. Like, you can pull him off of screens. I think really the big thing for Green to succeed on this team would be, you're right, that the idea of there always being a pure facilitator out there, and Fox and Halliburton are perfect for him. I couldn't imagine like a better pairing as far as how to keep this guy, ball in hand. They're very unselfish players. And even Harrison Barnes, is someone who I call the ultimate glue guy in the NBA. Like, he will not take the shot if he thinks there's a better one to be had. So Green, being young, confident, incredibly athletic, insane moves for his age, the shot confidence is there. Like, I could see him just completely taking over. Like, year one, he could put up 16 to 18 points a game on this Kings team.
Yeah. So, and I guess if we had to throw the name out there, I'm not like, obviously, this would be if they're farther down, like at a 4. Mm-hmm. If do they take a Suggs? If they're in that situation.
If they're at 4 and 1 through 3 goes Cade, JG4, Mobley, whatever order you want, I think they might go for Kuminga. I think they might surprise people here. I think that the problem is this front office has already shown us that they picked De'Aaron Fox, and they didn't want to draft Luka Doncic because they had De'Aaron Fox, and they didn't want to have any confusion over who is our primary ball handler. And I think that's old school thinking. I think that's wrong. And I think that's incredibly hurt their franchise as far as we see what happened with Luka and Bagley falling off my screen. I think that's a dumb idea, but I do think that we have to take that into account as far as the drafting strategy. And that's potentially what they would do is they would say, we've got De'Aaron Fox. We have Tyrese Halliburton. We don't need a third ball handling guard. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, why wouldn't you take this kid? Why wouldn't you take Suggs here? I think they would take Kuminga. 100%. If you're sitting here at 4, they're going to pick Kuminga. That's what's going to happen. They're going to take the raw wing who has incredible athletic talent. He's got an NBA-ready body, but he is not the most efficient guy. He's not someone who knows the game of basketball through and through, but he's a sponge. He loves the game. I watched, thank God for the Twitch Twitch G League live streams, because you can go back and watch that stuff now. And they did interviews, they did practice sessions where you can watch them talk about it, and you hear the vets talk and him talk. It's hard not to love the kid, and especially someone who came to the game of basketball later in life. He wasn't, playing in AAU at age 6 like a lot of these kids were. So you have to respect how young he is, because he is a pure 18-year-old versus a lot of these guys who are 19 in the college ranks coming out. They're basically a whole year behind him. Ahead of him as far as age. So he is ahead of them as far as progression in a lot of respects. And I think that is what's intriguing. People want to unlock that, here's our two-way wing of the future. We're going to build him to be the next Paul George, the next Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, his shot's shit right now. Don't even care. He's an athletic wing who has upside. My concern here is I see a little bit of Kevin Knox, obviously more athletic, but I just mean Kevin Knox in the respects of a raw wing who doesn't necessarily excel at one thing, but he's kind of a well-rounded player.
Yeah, and whenever you were first, describing a lot of that,
mm-hmm.
The athletic, and everything. The first name that popped in my head, I'm like, didn't they draft someone like this a couple of years ago? We kind of realized they kind of fucked up a little bit. So it's a little bag man idea, sort of like the.
How high could Batman jump though? Let's be honest. How high? He jumped real high. Bagman jumped real high. Got to take him number 2.
Yeah, the bag does get up there, so you got to go for the bag. But like, obviously, I'm not saying he's going to be Bagley. That's not what I'm insinuating. I know someone may take it as that, but like, sort of,
yeah, different situation.
Just kind of like just hearing like the like, oh, he's a raw athletic person. Like he's not great at one thing. Like he's not the most efficient. I'm sitting there and I'm like, so this is like kind of like Marvin Bagley, but if he was like not Marvin Bagley, like it's like the weird mixture of like Marvin Bagley and like Kevin Knox, like that sort of mentality. Because I like the comparison to Kevin Knox in the sense of like, granted, a lot of people will agree Knox probably should not have gone that high for where he went, but like obviously with Kuminga, we saw like you said, he loves the game of basketball. Obviously, I don't doubt if like Bagley likes it or Kevin Knox likes it, but we see the fact of if he got drafted to a team like this, obviously the coaching situation is abysmal.
Less than ideal.
I don't know how Luke Walton still has a job. I'm gonna be honest.
No one does.
Like, I think he's somehow fighting for Scott. Like I almost think he's gonna lose his job before Scott Brooks does. And that's sad.
Scott Brooks is getting carried right now.
Yeah,
man should be fired regardless of the record. But I agree. Like that's, I guess, is that a concern of yours? Would you steer away from a raw prospect with someone like Luke Walton, who in his years with the young Lakers really struggled to get off the ground? We see what's happening with every one of the young Lakers. Julius Randle is potentially the MIP this year. He is a fucking third-team All-NBA machine out there, playing insane minutes, but also getting great production. He's grown his shot. Brandon Ingram's a fucking all-star wing who looks like, he's got a little bit of Kevin Durant tendencies with the ball-handling thin wing. Obviously, no fucking defense, but still, very good player. Josh Hart, excellent. Nance is amazing. Like, Clarkson is 6th man of the year. Every single one of those guys was on his team. He couldn't fucking win shit. Like, oh yeah, are you afraid of taking a young, raw prospect for a team that is coached by a guy who has not succeeded with that young talent in the past? You haven't seen that development on their own team. They moved all those pieces because they weren't getting anywhere.
Yeah, that's where my primary fear comes in. Of like, is he going to get the most out of him? Like, obviously, with everyone you just listed on that Lakers team, one, it's crazy to think all those people were on the team at the exact same time as each other.
I mean, you have to look at the scouting department and just honestly, they went in for the ship, they got the ship, but like their draft team, and I mentioned Kuzma, THT, like it continues.
Oh, even Ball.
Yeah, LaMelo Ball again, gonna get a fucking $20+ million contract this offseason. It is incredible how well the Lakers have drafted. But obviously their timeline was their timeline, and they got their ship, and that's great for them. But everybody else has succeeded beyond expectations elsewhere, so I'm so happy for them. But it just kind of make you think, like, shit, man, like that's kind of fucking amazing.
Yeah, and I do think that is one of my major concerns with if the Kings take Kuminga, especially because like I don't want to just keep comparing him to Bagley because obviously him and Bagley are two different players. Yeah, but like that sort of Bagley, like he's improved a little bit. But, like, you could also argue he still was so much better in college. Like, obviously, we all know that man has one hand. And that one hand carried him to the NBA.
Correct. He can only finish with one hand. His college play showed it, and people were like, oh, he'll learn. He'll grow up. No, he did not.
Yeah, and that's sort of, like, the same worry I have of, like, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if it's something the Kings have worked with him on, but, like, nothing has changed. He's still a one-handed player that obviously... Don't get me wrong, he's been hurt, for most, like he's just, drawn the bad cards with the injury bug. And obviously I think I think he made improvements this year because when he did play, he looked fine.
His shot has gotten better. I will not argue that. He seems to have a more fluid motion in his shot. And I think that his effort on defense is at least existent. Where in college they had to go to a zone defense to counteract his don't give a fuck attitude on that half of the floor. He is known for being the energizer bunny on the offensive end. He's a high bounce kind of player in the post, but now it looked like this year he sort of started to put it together, and you got that like glimpse of. I mean, I'm not saying he's worthy of the number 2 overall pick, but like this kid absolutely deserves a shot to continue onto a second contract in the NBA. I feel good about giving him some money. Obviously, not like 20 million a year, like not even 15 million a year, maybe. But like, I think it's there. I think he gets the game of basketball on one end at least.
Yeah, and that's kind of just where the main worries of my thought process start. Of like, how long would it take for them to get such a raw prospect like Kuminga to a point of like, okay, he's really starting to help this team. Obviously, this Kings team still stinks. Like, we're not going to act like this team is just going to, like, after one draft to be a playoff team. But even that, hell, it was 2 years ago they almost made the playoffs? So, like, they were starting to push for, like, the 8th seed?
Yeah, they were really a fun team. Sean and I and Ricky all talked about how they were one of our, like, low-key, like, favorite teams to watch grow because we liked a lot of the talent out there, and we thought that they were rebuilding the right way. The problem is the West is a fucking buzzsaw of talent, and they did not take the next step forward. They've been stuck in mud because of their head coach, in most of our opinions. But what I would ask for you, you're bringing up, how quickly can he help contribute to winning? And my question is there a rush? I look at the talent in the West, and I'm going, LeBron James is now older and has an injury history, which is the first time in history we can say that. Anthony Davis, getting older, has an injury history, clearly. Chris Paul, old, injury history. Damian Lillard, that Blazers team, cursed burial ground, never going to be healthy as a team. Don't got to worry about that. So we're chipping through the entire Western Conference right now. And Chris Paul, LeBron, and the Blazers as a whole is an injury shit show. Like, you look at those 3 teams, you're like, I mean, like, yeah, like 1-2 more years of like incredible dominance, but like it's up for grabs after that, right, guys? Like, obviously the Clippers are doing something, but Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, I'm not sold that they're going to be there in 2 years. I think this is a team in the Kings who should be setting their sights on like, we can strike when De'Aaron is in his prime. We can hit this up. We've got time to develop a raw prospect. Like, I'm talking highly of Kuminga because he's an incredible slasher and he has the ability to play. He's got a great wingspan, so defensively he should be able to grow in, and learning under Harrison Barnes would be a great opportunity for him. Obviously, you have to work on the shot. You have to hope that he works on it and he is all invested, but everything points to the fact that he will be. So I think this is a situation where this timeline, you got 2 years to burn as far as building up this roster to the point where, like, they're in a deep competing position, like how the Denver Nuggets are, like how the Utah Jazz. Obviously, the Jazz are incredibly successful for different reasons, but I think they have a little bit of time because I don't know that anybody's really going to compete against the top of the West. Like, you can't, one draft pick's not going to fix this team overnight.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not expecting him to, like, instantly contribute. The only main thing for me is, like, I think maybe this is just me for some weird reason having, like, this weird mentality of it, of, like, could you convince someone like a Fox to say, like, if this team is just staying out of the playoffs? Like, and, like, kind of that team starting to get, like, that loser mentality of, like, why does it matter? We never win.
Oof.
Or, like, sort of, like, Sacramento already is a team that, like, struggles to get free agents.
Mm-hmm.
Because, obviously, if you're going to California, why not just go to the Lakers? You're already in LA. You're where you want to be. Hell, go to the Warriors. You got a chance of a ship and you can play with Steph Curry.
Well, like, I mean, contracts and the money do exist, and this will be, like, we will see an extension for De'Aaron Fox. So, unless he decides to opt out, like, he's locked up. So, we'll see. But again, he could demand a trade if he's sick of losing after 2 more years. You're right. There's nothing. He has the power to do that.
Yeah, and obviously, the Kings could just sit there and be like, "Hey, De'Aaron, get the fuck over. You're not leaving." But obviously, I don't think you really want to tell a player that. But, like, obviously, once again, I don't really think any of these. Like, I think really the only top, like, I think the top 3 would be the only ones that I'd be like, okay, this instantly makes, like, a huge jump for a team. And obviously, once you kind of get like to the 4 and 5 of essentially, Suggs and Kuminga or whoever you have subbing in for Kuminga, because since Suggs is essentially kind of like the quintessential, like everyone has him in top 4.
Yeah, but rightfully so. Two-way player.
Yeah, I just think it's the Kings are in such a spot of like they keep drafting this high, and it just never seems to pan out. Of like, obviously, last year they drafted at 11, I believe, which is where they got Halliburton at.
Yeah, which was a fucking steal.
Yeah, like I will say it right now, you're not going to have a guy that everyone was like, hey, so this guy should probably go like top 4 or like top 5 all the way down to you at 11 again. Yeah. I think this is essentially like you need to hit on this pick because it's like you're going to have trouble convincing people to want to come back. Like obviously, I don't know if De'Aaron, like, and obviously I'm not questioning like De'Aaron's loyalty to a team, but like essentially I think they need to kind of like try to pick up the pace a little bit because by this point, De'Aaron may be like, okay, let's look at the other people who were drafted with me. Jason Tatum's already been to the Eastern Conference Finals like 3 times. Obviously, Lonzo hasn't, done too much, but like essentially he can kind of look and like, okay, I was put in a situation of I can't win. Like I can drop 40 points in a game and my team still loses. Like, yeah. I'm just worried that like this Kings team will kind of develop that loser's mentality of where like you get someone like a Bagley who just stops trying. Like I'm not saying like he would give up, but like you get like the role players on the team that are just like, fuck it, I'll just go to Sacramento for the money and half-ass it the whole time.
I mean, they did do that whole thing where they went and signed, Trevor Ariza, Kojo, 2 other guys, Dwayne Dedman. They all bombed out. That was we all were like, I'm not sure if this team's ready for that kind of a lift yet. Like what happened to the Hawks this year, where they went out and they basically signed a second, halfway starting lineup, halfway like second unit. And they literally filled out like their roster's fucking deep. And thank God for that because of injuries. But like that's an incredibly dangerous team because they went out and they got Gallo. They got Clint Capella. They went and even though they got Clint, they drafted Onyeka Okongwu. They added Bogdan Bogdanovic, who is an incredible fucking player for them. They added Chris Dunn. They added Rajon Rondo. They added, forget the other piece. But yeah, like they literally went out and they doubled the roster with a bunch of smart veterans. And they're like, fuck it. Like, we want to be a playoff team. I don't want Trae Young to be a fucking sore loser at this point in his career. We need to start setting the benchmark for we have standards. We will not lose forever. And I think that this team maybe tried it, struck out early, and now they're in that like, where are we truly kind of a place in the ground. So I wonder, like, obviously they need help at the 4, the 5, even the 3. Like wing and big are both big needs for them. I think they have. As far as the backcourt lined up, they've got that figured out for now. I hope that Terrence Davis gets an extension with this team. I think that low-key was a decent move for them. Obviously, he's got some off-the-court shit going, but he's a great shooter. Would love to have him continue with the team. And they've got a couple picks in like Woodard and Ramsey on roster still, so not hopeless for their future, but they need to do a lot to get out of, like you said, that NBA purgatory of they're not good enough for the playoffs, but they're not bad enough to get. Well, maybe they're unlucky enough to get top picks.
So, essentially, where they'd be drafting at now. So on Tankathon, they have the Kings at the 7th. Is there anyone that really stands out here for you? Because I have a name, and I don't know if this would be a person that they would probably go. I mean, they'd probably go for him, but I don't know. I fall in like a weird spot with them.
Okay. I will preface this with, if Barnes is available, they should take Barnes. I think after they get through Kuminga, Barnes is probably my next BPA for them. I don't know if that was the person you were thinking of. No. Okay. Quick mention on Barnes. He probably won't be there at 7. I expect him to go 5 or 6, but who knows? In case he does, Florida State player. Enough said right there. How much they've put out and put into the NBA, but really good switchable big. He's probably a 4 or 5 in the NBA. I think probably a 4 is more likely as pure fit. But he can go 1 through 5 defensively. He's got to work on his offensive game, but like he has everything it takes to be like a phenomenal defender, and it's all offensive upside from there. So 100% worth a pick there as a developmental player. And we've seen out of Florida State guys that individual contributors, role players there can thrive and grow at the NBA level. Like it's just Florida State's about winning at Florida State in their system. And then these guys are like, oh, but did you know I can do this too? Like I've been working on it, and I love when they take that next step at the NBA level, as we've seen the last couple of years. After him, it gets kind of interesting because when you're trying to find, in my mind, I'm playing Kings here. I'm playing the Kings. I'm thinking I need a wing who can either be my next 3 of the future or my next 5 or even a 4. And Barnes is, obviously switchable. The name that strikes the most questions in my mind, it's a toss-up. One guy has nothing against him, and that's Josh Giddey. And the other guy is Jalen Johnson. Both incredibly talented. Both have reasons why I wouldn't take them here, but also incredible upside.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson was the one that I was like, I don't know how to feel about him. I'm like, obviously, he didn't play the whole year, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Yeah, he didn't play the whole year, and obviously, some people may view that as a downside to him.
He did one for the basketball team, and they did win directly after he left.
Yeah. So, I think that may weigh on some things, but obviously, the talent's still there.
Yeah.
It's essentially my main worry with it is he walked away from that Duke team, and obviously, don't get me wrong, that Duke team wasn't, great, but essentially my worry is, if he gets drafted to the Kings, would this be a situation kind of how, and this is an old throwback thing of how, basically, I don't remember what draft it was. When Charles Barkley was getting fat because he didn't want to get drafted by the Sixers, and he got drafted there anyways, and he fucking hated it. Is this going to be a situation of, he gets drafted to a team, and he just looks around God damn it, I should have tanked my stock.
I mean, he did tank his stock. The question is how well of a job he did there. I think Jalen Johnson's worst fit potentially could be Sacramento because of, the leadership in the locker room, the coach, the developmental team there. I would be concerned about taking someone in who has personality issues, potential personality issues. Of course, don't know him personally. I would be concerned about that. Absolutely. I don't love the idea of his fit there. I think that he needs to go somewhere that has a better track record of working with younger talent. Not that De'Aaron Fox has been a failure or Tyrese Halliburton, but I don't know if I've seen a team miss more first round players and talent than Sacramento. So it's kind of that situation of are we really setting him up for success here in Sacramento if we take him? Can we change the narrative about Jalen Johnson? Or are we going to be yet another notch from AAU issues to college issues to Sacramento Kings issues? Are we just the next chapter in that?
Yeah, and as well, I think one of my major questions, and obviously I've always been a person of you can develop these types of things over time. Mm-hmm. He was not the best free throw shooter in college. Shooting about, I believe 63% from free throw. Obviously he shot good from 3. He shot about 44%, which, pretty solid. My main worry is just once he transitions to the NBA, is that shooting going to translate from the 3? I don't think it will. And obviously we tend to see people who are really good free throw shooters tend to be really good 3-point shooters. Obviously, there are sometimes exceptions. There are sometimes people who go completely against it. Mm-hmm. But hell, who knows? Maybe in the time that he's had away from Duke, he finally learned how to shoot free throws consistently, or to a higher caliber.
There's that hope. The free throw percentage is usually a good precursor to know if they will develop a 3-point shot. Because it's basically a set shot, and at the NBA level, you do end up being more of a catch and shoot at that position. The interesting thing with Jalen Johnson is, he played high school basically as a point forward, bringing the ball up the court, and they tried to do that at Duke for a little bit, and it was fucking miserable. So I think my question is mostly around the scheme and the fit of how you use him, and will he be cooperable, being I don't want to call him a role player, but not being the primary ball handler, not being a secondary ball handler, even because you'd have Halliburton on the court. Even Barnes is a better ball handler than him. can he play off ball? Can he be a piece that can knock down shots and, might have to dribble a couple times, but he's not going to be the guy bringing the ball up the court. He's not going to be the guy initiating the half court offense for you. I don't know if he is that guy. And that's why he has gone from someone who should be a pick number 5, 6 to someone we're talking about 7 through 14 even. I've seen him fall as far as. So there's a lot of concerns around how selfish of a player is, how mature of a player he is, and I think it's all warranted. So if I was the Kings, I would not take Jalen Johnson, regardless of the talent. He's clearly gifted. He has talent. The question isn't, anything in regards to that. It's can he put it to the court and puts good use for your team? And I don't think Sacramento would fit that. I would rather take a shot at someone like Josh Giddey, who, it's not the ball handler, but it's someone who can shoot, someone who can slash, someone who is unselfish. And I'm always of the opinion of you can't have too many ball handlers on the court at one time. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think spacing and facilitating are the two most important qualities in the NBA.
Yeah. And just throwing out a random question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the Kings should look for positional or just like a BPA player?
I think they should take BPA. I think that they have a track record for going and narrowing their scope down to not, I don't want to say offend, but maybe not concern their existing players who are younger, that they're, being replaced. I think they're hypersensitive about the talent already under contract on roster. Like, I see a lot of guys here who, I would think would be interesting guys. Like if they wanted to go after, say if they were at like 9, say if they fell back a couple spots, like I would love the idea of going after like a Jared Butler, Jaden Springer, because they're BPA. Now, would they fit on the team? Not really great at all, but they'd be my BPAs at that point in time, And that's the problem when you look at, BPA and you're like, well, could they play next to each other? Sort of. But then how's the scheme fit? How's the coach fit? Are we going to put ourselves in a position where if we play 3-guard lineups, a la, the Clippers previously or the Nets now or OKC when they aren't tanking their asses off, like where's the positives, where's the negatives from doing that? Who can expose us, matchup wise, if we're trying to actually win games at this point in time? So I think it does raise a lot of questions. So I'm going to say this. The Kings are probably going to line through a lot of point guards and a lot of 2 guards who are potentially available. I think the 2 is like kind of a question mark. It's like, we love Halliburton. I don't know if he will be our starting 2 forever. I don't know if he'll be our starting 3 forever. I don't know if we prefer him at the backup coming off the bench. I almost feel like he's too good for that, but I don't know what their answer is. So they might take another wing who they can work on developing. Like if they fell in love with someone like a Moses Moody, I would be intrigued by that. I think Moses Moody could be a good fit on this team because, he does have the capability to kind of create and mold himself into how the game flows. If he's not making shots that night, he's going to attack through him. He's going to get to the line kind of an answer, But in all honesty, this team desperately needs to land a big. If I just blatantly, like, they need to get someone like Mobley. They need to get someone. The problem is you stop after that because you go, who's the next big on the board? I love Sengun. I don't know if they do. I don't know that, he, like for me, I've got him way high on my big board, but I've avoided talking about him because I don't know if they take an old school center like him. Like, do I think he'd work out great there? Probably, actually. But do I think that they would rather take a shot at someone like Kai Jones? 100%. I think that if they fall down a spot or 2 from 7 to 8 to 9, I think Kai Jones is on the board for them. I think that's something that they're 100% considering because they're so desperate at the big that they would take a long-term development shot. I think that's more likely that they're going to go for the rawest prospects. So, like, on my end, if you're asking me, like, outside of the top 4, Jonathan Kuminga is a great prospect for them because he has incredible upside, talent. I think Sengun could be a good prospect. I think that Barnes could be a great prospect. I think that someone like Kai Jones, in the same vein, Keon Johnson, guys who have upside but aren't quite there yet, so you might get the value from picking them a little bit later. but you can grow them into, the stars in the timeline that you need them to be to fit when you're really going to compete. I think that's probably the goal. Like these guys who are ready made, the upperclassmen who are, killing it already. I don't think like Davion Mitchell is the pick for this team. I think that would be a horrendous pick if I was the Kings. Like that would be like an absolute fuck no.
Yeah. And for instance, because I was actually going to say, kind of with the older people, I was going to say like if the Kings almost wanted to take that sort of like we want to try to push for the playoff spot, like would they potentially take someone? I mean, obviously, I don't think they would take a Mitchell, and that's not like anything against Mitchell. It's just because they already have 2 point guards.
Mm-hmm.
But more of like would they take a shot on like a Corey Kispert if he was there? Like if like a James Bouknight. Obviously, Bouknight's not really like super long tenured. Like he's a sophomore in college.
Yeah,
but
he's not 24 starting the NBA season. So, I mean, Bouknight, if you're moving on from Buddy Hield, obviously you could make a reason there. Only assuming you're moving on from Buddy Hield to get yourself another piece. The one that kind of intrigues me that we haven't talked about is Wagner. I think that he's someone who they could take underneath the wing of Harrison Barnes, play for a year, and then if there's a great offer for Harrison Barnes, they would feel comfortable moving on because you could get a guy who is able to guard multiple positions. He can move the ball. He can be your prototypical wing, defend. He can shoot. Like, I think he's almost like that. Like, he's not quite as good as Harrison Barnes yet, but he's a fraction of the price, and we could move Barnes to get ourselves something we need. And I think that's the one that I would keep my eye, like outside eye. I don't know where Barnes right now is on most people's boards, but I think for me, he's somewhere in that like early teens area. And I would say that would be an intriguing one because that would kind of give you a little bit an idea of where they're going.
See, I just have to, it's contractually obligated, Dave. I'm a Michigan State guy. I got to shit on Wagner every chance I can now because he's a Michigan guy. I have to. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he's from Michigan, which means he stinks. That's all that matters. That's about as far as I'm going.
He's a 3-and-D wing who has ball handling and facilitating capabilities. You could have the next Gordon Hayward. You could have Harrison Barnes. You could set your sights high and be like this guy could, or in the middle and be like Joe Ingles. It just depends on how well he fits the NBA level. Again, we saw his numbers dip at Michigan a little bit because he went from a guy who was a role player to almost their leading option at times. So his shooting percentages did dive. His catch and shoot opportunities disappeared. And if you look back, his earlier scouting reports from playing in Europe spoke extremely highly. They said he has one of the best catch and shoot motions that you could ask for at his age. Like, they spoke so highly of that. So I'm going, this is a guy who I don't understand why Kispert is so high on people's boards when I could go ahead and take Wagner with higher upside and feel way better about it. I get it. Kispert could be, Kyle Korver basically out there. He obviously the Joe Harris because they work out together and he's modeled his game after Joe Harris. But I would much rather try to take a shot at someone who has the defensive upside and switchability of Wagner at that point. I think that he's kind of the guy who I kind of dark horse, like it would almost be a reach, but not really to me. But I think a lot of people's boards, he might be a little bit further back than that.
Yeah, and this was actually a name as well. Earlier, we talked about kind of needing a power forward or a center. Mm-hmm. This player kind of fits that a little bit because they are listed as both. I think there would be a possible chance they take a shot at someone like an Isaiah Jackson, kind of younger than Kai Jones, kind of, and he didn't have the greatest of college seasons,
mm-hmm.
but at the same time, we've seen people like, for instance, Jaren Jackson Jr. didn't have great numbers in college, and look what he fucking became. Right, that man couldn't stay in the goddamn court.
Yeah, I mean, there was a foul issue there, obviously.
I mean, I'm just saying, Isaiah Jackson also has foul issues. I'm just saying.
There does seem to be a similarity there.
See, I'm just saying both last name Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, one has Junior at the end of it. But, both got foul trouble. I'm just saying, could Isaiah Jackson be the Jaren Jackson Jr. of this draft?
I mean, I was a massive Jaren Jackson Jr. fan, like absurd levels. You can go back and watch the tape. Ricky didn't get it. I remember having the conversation with him. He's like, he's just not that good in college. I'm like, no. You don't understand. We get a small window of what he is. Like when he gets time, when he learns to not hack a fucking everything that moves and pump fakes at him. Oh my God, this kid has so much raw potential. And I love the fact that he's finally back after his injury that took way too fucking long. Isaiah Jackson's an interesting talent who has been rising on my own board. I'm glad you brought him up. I think he is super intriguing to me. And I credit to you for bringing it up, but also credit to a lot of people who maybe gave Isaiah Stewart a lot of credit and have seen what Beef Stew can do in the NBA. I think that's helping. I think that's helping the value of someone like Isaiah Jackson, because Isaiah Jackson plays. Well, I see they're not incredibly similar, but they can play similar at times. I think Isaiah Jackson has higher upside, but at the same time, I'm just my mind has been blown by what Beef Stew has done this season. If Isaiah Jackson can add a set shot from three, if he can add that catch and shoot mechanic to his game, they'd have to fall all 4 spots. They'd have to land at like 11 for me to consider this. I think it still feels like a reach to me. You know what I would rather them do? If they fall back, I would rather they would. Let me see. Hang on. I got to check Tankathon real quick. I would rather that they would do a trade with the Suns and take Smith from last year from the Suns, who they've completely discarded. I think you could get some. Who exactly?
Yeah.
Last year they took Smith.
I think that actually would be a good idea.
Was that 9, 10?
Yeah, I remember that was the one that we were all like, "Wow, that was a reach."
Yeah,
ironic.
Ricky,
2 years in a row they reached.
Well, they had Tyrese Halliburton on their board, and they're like, "Nah, we don't want to take the next fucking point guard successor to Chris Paul, who has incredible defensive instincts, incredible length, great wingspan, incredible playmaking ability, and a fucking killer shot already. We're good on that. We don't really need that. Let's go ahead and take this mystery box over here. Smith, who is a project, but he's a big who can shoot, who has good defensive tendencies from college, and I think everybody's pretty much forgotten about him. I would say if they fall and they can work out a favorable trade to get Smith from Phoenix, I think that one would intrigue the fuck out of me rather than, no offense, Isaiah Jackson.
And obviously, I was just throwing Isaiah Jackson just out there because he was really solid on defense. Obviously, the fact that
he's a block machine. I don't get me wrong. I agree.
Yeah, and obviously, his playmaking is, but he's big. You don't need him to play make.
I don't expect that, but his defensive tenacity is there, and it's consistent effort, and that's what you need on a team like this. I mean, De'Aaron Fox can be a shutdown point guard, but if your rim protection is weak, he can help guide people to that. It's kind of like how Utah plays with Gobert. They know Gobert brings that rim protection, that elite rim protection to the table. So Mike Conley is a good defensive guard, but he can kind of hedge on his plays because he knows if he lets someone guide them into the paint, you run into fucking Rudy Gobert. Like, good luck. Your shot percentage just went down 10%. Like, it's exactly what happened. So the idea of adding someone like Isaiah Jackson, who, I get it, his wingspan isn't 74 fucking feet wide or long, but like he still has great instincts for a big man protecting the paint. And I think that would help this team out. I just think that would be a reach at this point for me for where they're at, even if they fell a couple spots because of draft magic. I think that I like the idea of plucking that. What could we get for Smith out of the Suns and see? Obviously we could do something else with our pick here. You wouldn't trade out, the number 10 pick, number 11 pick for him after a year where he basically didn't play because the Suns whatevered him. Yeah.
And I guess kind of just bringing up one last prospect, and I'm probably going to say his name wrong. It's like Usman Garuba, I think is how.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Obviously, I don't think the Kings would take him because he's something, all right. But kind of, I see him. He's high up on some people's boards, and I guess this is more or less of like if the Kings just wanted to. I'm not saying like, oh, this is going to be the most Kings pick ever. Like, I personally don't like shitting on organizations if they draft bad. Don't get me wrong, I will definitely bring it up.
So you can say that.
If there was ever a chance they took Usman Garuba, like I said, I don't think they would. But if they did, like
think of him like TT on steroids, like prime Tristan Thompson on steroids. He's an undersized center who has an incredible fucking rebounding game, great defensive instincts. He's been playing against grown men for 2 years now, holding his own. His minutes have grown. Look, I believe what I see. The problem is you question the upside. I haven't seen a ton of growth as far as him facilitating out of the post. I haven't seen a ton of growth as far as him adding a shot to his game. How valuable is a guy like that in the modern NBA? Someone who can only clog the paint on both ends of the court. I think that's a big point that people want to say, hey, he's proven, he's track ready, we can put him on the court tomorrow, and he would do a decent job in the NBA, no doubt in my mind. But you would also have that question about how high is his ceiling? How limited of a player is he now, and can he ever grow out of that? Or are you forever trapped with someone who, is a limited player? And I think that, when you're in the teens, when you're out of the lottery, you can go two ways. You can land the sure shot and take someone who can contribute at the NBA level, or you can take someone who has some hopes of being a high ceiling kind of guy and take a deep shot at somebody who could be a high level contributor like that, but there's also a much lower floor. I think he's an incredibly high floor player, but also a very low ceiling.
Yeah. So I guess because, since the Kings have like 700 second round picks, do you think there's anyone like super interested?
One.
Oh, they only have one?
They have one this year.
Oh, I thought they had like 4.
No.
I don't know why I thought that.
No,
maybe I was just looking at a thing of like down the line they have more, I guess.
Yeah, they have
That's my brain's just dumb.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. As far as I know, they have a single second round pick. In that second round, obviously you have to go for, if there's an incredible faller. It's funny. I've seen Zaire Williams anywhere from pick 8 to pick 32. I get that his performance wasn't incredible at Stanford, but I don't think there's any fucking way he falls to the second round. Other guys who could be there for them. I think that this is a team who, in the second round, should take I love the idea of, again, you're going to hate me, Isaiah Livers, Michigan man, 5th-year senior, 3-and-D player, great fucking shooter, great role player, comes in. Basically, you're hoping for Cam Johnson Jr. here, but at pick 36 instead of pick fucking 11, 14, whatever it was. I think he's someone who steps in and can contribute for them day one. I 100% love the idea of going after someone like that in the second round, because either you're taking long shots, you're either taking the best damn role player you've seen, or you're taking someone like Roko Perkichin, who maybe will be there in the second round if no one falls in love with him, who maybe in 2 years is 2 years away from being 2 years away. Like, he'll be the next that guy. He's doing incredible things against okay competition. It's not the highest tier of competition, but could be very interesting to see what he does there. I see a lot of people mocking, what you call it? I forget his name. Sorry, there are way too many names floating in my head for the draft at this point. You mentioned him earlier, Ron Harper Jr. Someone like that. Someone who could be a bench ball handler for this team as you move Halliburton to the starting lineup. If you want a wing who can ball handle, that would be an interesting option, because I think both he and there's another guy who he's probably higher up, Terrence Shannon Jr. Both of those guys as bench guys who can ball handle intriguing prospects if either one of them fell to the second round. I think Terrence Shannon is much higher than Ron Harper Jr., but they both have interesting potential at the NBA level.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously, for people out there, I've actually started looking into prospects, so I'm not going to be as stupid as I was like last time I was on here, didn't know anybody. Do you think there is a possible chance they don't take a center in the first and they use their pick in the second round to take a player like an Ariel? I'm going to say his name wrong. It's like Ariel Kuporti, I think is how you say his name. Yeah, the guy he's from Germany, I think. He plays in like the Lithuanian league, I think.
I don't love it. I think that they need someone who can play now. I don't know that he can. He is 19, but same time, his weight is a bit of a question mark. He's 251, but it doesn't look like brick shithouse 251.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know if he would hold up to the NBA shit. If they go with a wing in the first round, and they're desperate for a second round center who can help their team, that's a good question. Would Ariel be the best available center at that point in time?
Well, and also just. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, I was going to
say.
Go ahead. You go. I'm going to stop talking now.
Well, I was almost wondering, and obviously this is a person that I'm kind of looking at like through Tankathon, looking at names I recognize, and at 24 they have the Rockets taking Philippe Petrusev.
Yes.
Is there a chance that like someone like a Philippe could fall, maybe, and it's just and if he's available, like take him instead?
Yeah, I think that Philippe has higher upside. Bit more proven, bit more polished on the offensive side. If he falls, I would love to. If he falls, 37 right now? Yeah, I would absolutely. At 37, I would 100% consider him, because if you're locked in, if you're keyed in on that center position, basically at that point in the draft, if you think that, okay, here's another question. I hate to say it. Your guy, Luka Garza. If you're looking at Luka Garza, Charles Bassey, as potential centers for your team, or your other guy, hang on, it'll come to me. Foreign player, Baji.
Oh yeah,
an absolute fucking stud muffin.
That's
of
Ibu.
Yep, Ibu Danko Baji. I mean, if we're going just go for your international pick in the second round, dart at the wall, hope something lands, I think Baji's the least likely to succeed at the NBA, like out the gates. I think he needs a lot of polish. I mean, Luka Garza and Bassey could contribute tomorrow, but the question, obviously, Luka Garza plays an incredibly slow style of basketball. And when the Kings were their best was, now I'm going back a couple years, was when they played up-tempo. They let De'Aaron Fox and the boys run with the ball. And I still see that. I still see them thriving as a faster-flowing offense. So a change of pace like Luka Garza, with that bench unit being a mismatch for a lot of centers in the league, could be interesting. I think Bassey, fuck no. I hate Charles Bassey, apparently. I'm going to lean into that one. I love the idea of going with, yeah, I would take, if there was a faller, sure, go ahead and go with that. But in the second round, as far as centers are concerned, Luka Garza, not a bad option. Not a bad option.
And
yeah, really, I just realized how thin our grouping is at centers.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. And unless you think Isaiah Todd will be a center at the next level, I don't think so. I think he plays like ideal power forward. I think Tankathon's hilariously off on his draft value. They've got him at big board slot number 66. Insanity. There's no way he'll go anywhere that late. Obviously, the second round is only 60 picks, but there's no way he'll go undrafted or that late in the second round. But you're right that it is thin. The second round is thin for center. So if you were looking internationally, you might have to take one of those shots in the dark.
Yeah, and obviously, if they take a center in the first round, and if you're kind of looking for a person who can contribute to scoring right away, do you think? And once again, I will apologize. I'm going to 100% get names wrong. I find out how to say them. Just the first time I say them, it's never right. I think it's like Nishan Highland out of VCU.
Yeah.
Do you think he'd be a good like shout for this team? Mostly just because, and obviously, kind of, you know how Tankathon has like the advanced stats part. Uh, Mostly because of what his projected NBA 3-pointer percentage is. Of essentially, they're projecting him to be damn near a 40% shooter from three, which obviously this season we've seen a lot of almost 40%, like 40+% shooters, and obviously, you know, people can take that as they will.
Yeah,
But
people got to get better as shooters. It's just the trend of the NBA. You know, kids learn to shoot much better form at a younger age. Some would say better coaching from a better age. Some would say toxic coaching. But point being, talent continues to get better as we continue to draft. Like I mentioned this previously, we've never had more talent in the G League and on the bench than we've had right now. And in 5 years, it'll be even better. I think a G League team this year could have been, could have beaten the bottom 5 teams of the league in 2005. And I think that will continue to grow and the gap will continue to close because just kids are getting so much better, so much faster, and they know what they need to do to succeed at the NBA level. So, we're talking about second rounders here. I think there's a legitimate argument. Like we're seeing a lot of second rounders succeed at the NBA. So,
yeah, but do you think like a Nishan Highland would be like a good shout for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know the specific need. If you just had him that much higher on your big board, absolutely go for it. If you're just like, hey, we need a bucket, but I think that they already have Jamias Ramsey as their gunner off the in the long term hopes as far as progression. Terrence Davis, if they can re-sign him. So I see them as having a couple guys who love to fucking shoot the rock already from that wing position. Highland's only like 6'2", maybe 6'3". I don't know that they need to add depth at that shooting guard position quite yet. I think they're desperate for a wing help. I think that if you could find someone a little bit bigger throughout the draft, that would be their ideal situation.
Also, Scotty Lewis on here.
I fucking don't like Scotty Lewis. He does nothing great. No.
He blocks the ball.
No, won't do it. Name who a week ago wasn't, or a name who a week ago was available at this point, who now I don't know if he will be. Trey Murphy out of Virginia is someone who's been flying up boards. People have been watching Virginia tape a little bit more. They realize that, yeah, he's not the shiny toy over there, but he's pretty fucking good, actually. So Trey Murphy is 6'9", decent size to play the 3 or the 4, probably the 4. The foot speed's not, well, I'll leave it up to you guys. The foot speed's okay, but he's a great catch and shoot player, high percent shooter from everywhere on the court. I think he's someone who probably will get snatched up late 1 now, but if there's a chance he falls, I think that's a name that would be really interesting to see because, again, he played smaller in college. Can he keep up with that at the NBA level, or will he just slide down to the 4 full time? I don't know, but he's someone who I think has an incredible chance to go way higher than a lot of people have seen him up to this point in time.
All right. Are there any final names you want to throw out?
I feel pretty good about this. I feel like Isaiah Todd. I always have to mention him because I touched on him a little earlier. I think he's fucking fantastic. I would be shocked if he went as low as they have him. I think if he's there, obviously in round 2, just snatch him instantly. But I think he goes round 1. No, I think that's pretty much it. We kind of narrowed it down. Team feels like they're steering in a direction. They don't have to compete today, but you don't want to get too comfy with losing with De'Aaron and the way the players are. I want outs. So,
all right, that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to join the community, join us at Discord, !Discord and Twitch chat. If you want to support us in a monetary value, patreon.com/MVPvids. Trying to remember if there's any other last minute things I know to announce the show for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be NFL, the last day before the NFL draft. Ricky and Jake are going to be talking about it. Oh, it's a 2-hour show. The voice in my head has spoke to me. They told me it's a 2-hour show.
special.
Whew. And a lot of big knowledge in there. Watch us live at twitch.tv/MVP vids. YouTube MVP or youtube.com/MVP sports. That's the end of the show. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time.
WPN.